The clock on my nightstand reads 3:14 a.m. The air in my apartment is stale, smelling of cold coffee and the ozone scent of a laptop that's been running too long. I'm 24 years old, and I'm staring at a screen until my retinas burn. There she is. Pixels don't lie, but they don't tell the whole truth either. It's a photo, her, leaning into him. The lighting is warm, golden hour, the kind of light we used to chase when we were 16 and thought the sun stayed up just for us. The caption is a string of emojis and words that feel like a physical weight on my chest, though my brain has already decided to delete them from my permanent memory to save itself from a total collapse. I feel that familiar sick thud in my gut. It's the sound of a door slamming shut for the third and final time. How did I get back here? How am I? A grown man with a life and a career, still haunted by a girl who hasn't been mine since the Obama administration. To understand the betrayal, you have to understand the bond. You have to understand how she convinced me that we were the only two people in the universe, only to reveal she'd been building a galaxy without me. Flashback to 16. Everything was louder then. The rain felt wetter, the cold felt sharper, and the boredom was a living thing. She wasn't the girl who stopped traffic. She didn't have the conventionally attractive look that the guys in my gym class drooled over. But she had this frequency. When we spoke, it felt like we were on a private radio station that no one else could tune into. She was my number two, my best friend, my shadow. I remember the first time she drank. It was a messy house party, the air thick with cheap cologne and desperation. She got overwhelmed, she always did, and bolted outside. I didn't even think. I just grabbed my coat and followed her into the biting air. I remember the weight of that coat as I draped it over her shoulders. I remember the way she looked at me, not with lust, but with this terrifying level of trust. We spent hours on a rooftop in the pouring rain. Most people would have called it miserable. We called it a Tuesday. We sat there until our jeans were heavy with water, talking about nothing and everything. My favorite ghost of a memory? The skateboard. I'd hold her by the waist, my hands steadying her as she wobbled on the grip tape. I'd walk her through town like that, teaching her to ride, but really, I was just finding a way to stay close without breaking the unspoken rule. Don't make it weird. We'd end up at this cramped coffee shop, the smell of roasted beans and wet wool clinging to us, and we'd talk until the staff started stacking chairs. She was a writer. Sometimes she'd write about me. I can't tell you a single specific sentence she wrote. My brain has protected me from that. But I remember the feeling. It was like being seen through a high-definition lens for the first time. She made me feel important. Two shy idiots against the world. We had our car rituals. We'd sit in her mom's sedan, the windows fogged from the vape and our own breath. We'd trade music like it was currency. One week, it was indie folk. The next, it was some obscure slowed and reverb track she'd found. We'd wrestle in the back seat. Not sexual, just physical energy with nowhere to go. I'd let her win. Always. I just wanted to see that spark in her eyes when she pinned my shoulders down. Then there was the space lesson. We were lying in the grass, the earth cooling beneath us. I pointed out Orion's belt, showing her the 3 stars that never change. "Are those the only constellations you know?" I teased. "No," she'd bark back with that sarcastic laugh that I can still hear if I close my eyes. But the peak, the moment that ruined me for every woman I've dated since, the walk home. After a cookout, she decided to walk me halfway back to my place so I wouldn't have to venture through the dark alone. When we hit the midway point, a nondescript patch of sidewalk under a flickering street lamp, we stopped. We hugged. I've had sex. I've had long-term girlfriends. I've felt passion. But that hug? The world went silent. It was a dopamine rush so pure it felt like a drug. I got home feeling like I'd won the lottery, my heart hammering a rhythm of pure, unadulterated joy. I was 16 and I was in deep, and that's exactly when I started to destroy it. Betrayal doesn't always start with a lie, it starts with a shift in the air. I was self-destructive. I was scared of how much I needed her, so I poked the bruise. I mentioned drifting. I pushed her away to see if she'd pull back. I sent messages that were meant to test her loyalty but only ended up hurting her. I'm sensitive, she'd texted me back then. I tried not to let it get to me. And then she went numb. The light in the room just went out. She was done. I spent a year in a hole of my own digging, the kind of depression that makes your bones feel heavy. The first discovery. A year later, she came back, but it wasn't a reunion. It was an autopsy. She came to find me, claiming she missed me. But the Maya I knew had been replaced. I started noticing the clues during our long drives. There was a new smell in the car, a perfume that didn't fit her. Her phone, which used to sit face up on the dashboard, was now a permanent resident of her pocket, or placed face down like a secret. I remember the first time I felt the shaking hands sensation. We were sitting in a diner and her phone lit up. A name I didn't recognize flashed on the screen. Not a girlfriend, a guy. She didn't just ignore it, she fumbled to hide it. "Who's that?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady, world-weary. "Just a guy from the new group," she said, her eyes not meeting mine. That's when I began the mental forensic work. I started tracking the inconsistencies, the new friends. People she described as annoying suddenly became the people she spent every Friday with. The habits. She was cynical now. The girl who wrote poetry about the stars now talked about moving on and living for the moment. The GPS of her mind. I'd mention the rooftop or the skateboard, and she'd give a polite, distant smile, like I was talking about a movie she'd seen a long time ago and barely remembered the plot of. We tried to force it for months. It was toxic. We were two ghosts trying to haunt the same house. Eventually, we parted ways again. She admitted it. She'd been pushing me away the whole time. Another year passed. I was moving on. I was okay. Then she reappeared, like a recurring fever. This time, she brought evidence. She showed me her notebooks. She'd been writing to me the whole time she was gone. Notes addressed to E, venting to me in her head. She told me I was the only person who ever truly listened. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her so badly that I ignored the digital breadcrumbs. I'd see her active status on Instagram at 2 a.m., but my text would go unanswered for 18 hours. I'd notice she was posting photos in places we used to go, but with the edges cropped. Who was holding the camera? Who was sitting across from her at the coffee shop? I became a detective of my own misery. I'd analyze the reflections in her sunglasses and her stories. Is that a guy's arm? Is that a passenger side mirror of a car I don't recognize? The connection was now a one-way wire. She was feeding me nostalgia while she was eating the present with someone else. I saw her maybe once in that third attempt. It was all text, all digital vapor. She was there, but she wasn't there. She was playing a character in my life while she was the lead in someone else's. The end didn't come with a conversation. It came with a refresh button. That morning, the one I described at the start, I saw the truth. It wasn't just a guy from the group. It was the choice she had made while telling me I was the only one who understood her. I didn't stay quiet this time. The shy idiot was gone. I called her out. The air in my room felt electric as I typed the message. No delving into feelings, just cold, hard facts. "You couldn't even give me the decency of a heads up?" I sent. "After all the I miss us notes and the you're the only one speeches, you had someone else the whole time." The response was silence. The loudest silence I've ever heard. I realized then that she didn't love me. She loved the idea of me as a safety net. I was the person she went to when her ego needed a boost, the one she'd vent to when her actual life got messy. I was a character in her notebook, not a person in her world. The social fallout was quiet. I didn't blast her on the feed. I'm not that guy. But I deleted her. I blocked the accounts. I burned the bridge and stayed to watch the fire. The nuclear revenge wasn't a legal battle or a public shaming. It was the total, absolute removal of my attention. For a girl who lives on being understood and listened to, the loss of her primary audience was the ultimate sentence. So here I am, 24. I've dated since. I've had sex with women who are, conventionally, much more attractive than she ever was. I've had sensual moments that should, on paper, eclipse a hug under a street lamp. But nothing has ever come close to that 16-year-old frequency. I don't miss her. I miss the version of me that believed in that kind of magic. I miss the world where a space lesson was the most important thing on the agenda. I ponder what it would be like if I hadn't pushed her away that first time, if I hadn't been a self-destructive teenager. But then I look at the pattern, the push and pull, the 3 attempts, the secret photos. It was always going to end this way. She was a writer, and writers need a tragedy to keep the story interesting. I was just the protagonist she decided to kill off in the final chapter. I wake up every day in this stressful world of hell. I pay my bills. I do my work. But sometimes, when the wind hits a certain way or I hear a certain lo-fi track, I'm still that kid on the rooftop. Only now, I know better than to wait for her to follow me out into the cold.